evening, viewers. Welcome to the Personal Injury Law Show. My name is Don Maffia. I'll be your host tonight. This is a show that talks about everything to do with personal injuries and how it affects you. Now, tonight with me, I have Nunzio Tartaglia, who's a partner at a law firm. Good evening, Nunzio.
Evening, Don. Evening, viewers. Welcome.
And I've got Vivian, a director of Graver Media and also a former lawyer. How are you, Viv?
Hello, Don. Hi, Nuns. Good evening, viewers.
Now, tonight, viewers, we have a show with Carechoice, who is a disability care provider. And tonight, representing Carechoice, we have Glen, Jansz, and also Suzie, Newall. And they'll be on after the break.
But before we kick off, Don, what's been in the news?
Well, Vivian, this goes to you. This is something you've raised plenty of times. Mikey, tell us about this article.
The debacle with Mikey continues. However, there is good news for those of you who frequent the transportation system in Victoria. Basically, a fare evasion fine has been thrown out of court, which is amazing, simply because I know that the very infrequent times that I use the transportation system in Victoria, oftentimes it is so user-friendly because you've had $100 on your card, which is what this gentleman actually had. He did everything possible to swipe his card at the Sunbury station. The person at the attending at the station said, just take the train basically and deal with it at the other end. Now he was fined, but the court deemed that he had done everything in his power in order to pay for his fare, and therefore they threw out which is great news.
No, he wasn't trying to fare invade.
No.
So he'd done everything reasonable. So I guess the onus would lie back on the commuter to prove that they've done everything possible to clock on or whatever they do with my
Yeah, look, that's right. And look, the fear now for the Department of Transport and the government is that this challenge, because it's been thrown out, could lead to more people challenging the system. And, if they come up with a story that's valid enough to say that, look, I was doing my best to pay for, my journey, then there could be an argument there, Don.
Well, to be honest, why not? Yeah. I've got 4 Mikey cards and I bring 4 of them with me whenever I go to the football or whatever, and I just go, okay, swipe, $80, $60. Sometimes they do and don't work, and I just think this system has, we all know it's been ludicrous, so anyway.
Now let's talk about the next article. This is danger in the home. Viv, furnitures that can be child killers.
This is really scary. I was reading this newspaper article the other day and I called to question basically what was in my home. So essentially what's happening, one child annually under 9 dies from falling furniture. So not to mention all of the broken bones and other injuries that are sustained from non-affixed furniture. So I was looking at a chest of drawers that was actually in my son's room, and oftentimes when I pull the drawers out, it falls a little bit, and I thought, oh my goodness, I need to affix that. So essentially what it's saying is that retailers need to potentially now supply affixing equipment, and to also instruct parents on how to affix this furniture, because kids are climbing, as we all know, but it is really scary. And one person actually went through a homemaker centre and found that only one store sold affixing equipment.
So someone's gone to 10 stores and only one store had anchor kits with chest and bookcases. Guess which store it was?
You tell me, Don.
It was IKEA. So there you go. But it is scary. It is alarming to hear that amount. Yeah. What's your view about that?
Yeah, look, in terms of the litigation angle, look, the fact is that these stores could be, saying the gun if they don't give the proper awareness, instruction manuals, and how to fix these things. And when we're hearing one annually under 9, it's that's really scary stats. So we hope that that declines.
I guess my concern with this from a legal perspective is to what extent then does common sense come into play? As a parent, if you could see potentially that a child is, anyone who's got parents knows that they're likely to climb, they're likely to swallow things.
But then the shop owners should know that too, so it's a double-edged sword, as I say.
Now, the next article, Nuns, this is titled Working to Death. What's this one about?
Yeah, well, it's scary. This is also another scary article because it gives stats on the suicide rates for varying professionals. And Don, which do you think would be the top of the list?
Look, I've read the article. I would have thought something like the paramedics, but it's not.
Yeah, so veterinarians are at the top of the list at 38 out of every 100,000 suicide rate. Is that
that's right.
Yeah.
That's alarming. Like the veterinarians, you think they deal with animals, but they also deal with the grief of people who've lost their animals.
And, you know, and I said, read in the article talking about, you know, the fact of the matter is that there's euthanasia that they have to get involved in when it comes to animals. I think unless you're in that field, you don't really can get a sense of how strongly they must emotionally have some struggle. So it's a really alarming stat.
Yeah, it is. And it does make sense, though, because a lot of people actually treat their pets as, you know, an extension of their family. So, but also it talks about long hours that they sustain working in, you know, and remote areas. So, but the top three was vets, paramedics,
and security guards.
And security guards.
It obviously just goes to show that there is a lack of support in these type of industries, particularly like veterinarians. You think that's a high suicide rate. What are they doing to reduce those rates?
Look, and that's you bring a good point, because things in that areas and paramedics, they know that they're going to be exposed to some, you know, serious situations. The onus is on the employers to make sure they've got support networks and doing everything possible to avoid these you know, alarming stats. So
yeah, and I don't know whether we're talking about it more or what the situation is culturally now, but people are, you know, there are a lot of mental health issues in the work environment. And one of the other things that struck me out of this statistic was in the top 10, hairdressers were actually up there. Yeah. They rated too.
Good to know lawyers are down the bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
The next article is airline sued over fat spillage. Who's going to tell me about that? Viv?
Nunz, this is close to your heart.
For me, this is an odd one. So a man suing an airline, Eddie had claiming he got a back injury after being forced to sit next to an overweight gentleman on the plane from Sydney to Dubai, and made various complaints to the airline during the course of the journey that you know, he was in pain and struggling and wanted to be moved, and they wouldn't, and he's got an injury.
Look, when it's not only overweight, he was also coughing, so that's the injury was caused by him twisting his body to keep away from
the coughing
overweight person.
So I guess the thing that's interesting about this is that the staff did actually move him for a small portion of the flight, and then had to move him back, arguably because he was actually in a flight attendant's seat. So potentially for safety reasons, he had to be moved back to his seat. So is there then an omission because they then moved him and they agreed with him to an extent, given that they did move him away from this, you know, overweight person? And what legal rights does he have? What sorts of injuries would he have to prove from a flight from Sydney to Dubai?
Under these airline cases, there's no threshold, so he doesn't have to worry about that. But you know, Eddie had tried to get the claim thrown out and what's called summary judgment, but the court said no. There's a case to answer, so there could be something there.
But there has to be an accident.
Yeah, under the Act, there's got to be an accident. So we need to know more about the facts, Don.
So really, the question is whether or not this is an accident.
Yep.
But look, I'm sure there'll be more on that. So thanks, Viv, for coming on.
Pleasure, Don.
Now, next segment, we'll be talking to Glen Jansz from Carechoice. So stay tuned and keep watching. Welcome back, viewers. Tonight we have Glen Jansz from Carechoice, General Manager. And Nunz, Carechoice, which Glen will explain to us, but we see a lot of people involved in accidents who are in hospital and receive their treatment. Yep. The question always, the unknown question is, what happens after you receive treatment from the hospital?
Yeah, look, we come at a stage where we just hear about what's happened. It's generally like, you know, catastrophic injuries, and they're in rehab for 6 to 12 months, or, you know, inordinate time, and we don't know what they've gone through. And when their clients tell you, it's hard to understand and fathom that, and that's why it's important that tonight we've got someone to explain that in more detail.
So, Glen, tell us about yourself and about Carechoice.
Carechoice has been in operation for over 8 years now. We're a premium provider of disability care to the community. We're TAC approved provider as well. We provide a range of services to the community that may be from personal care to community access to various requirements within the home for disabled people.
Correct. And after the next segment, we'll be talking to Suzie, who's your client services. Now, how many staff do you employ?
We employ over 600 staff. They go through an extremely stringent recruitment process in order to keep our quality of care provision to the highest standard. Our internal coordinators are direct contact with our clients, and they'll organise their rostering and their care provision on a day-to-day basis.
Glen, are you finding, obviously it's a massive organisation, and we'll get to funding a little bit later, but are you finding, because obviously you're looking after disability care services and aged care, is there any trends emerging? Like, are you finding that in terms of more, catastrophic injuries, that there's an increase in it? What's your take on that? Because it's interesting to see, we say a lot about what's in the news about trends and what's happening. Are you sensing anything from your end?
Yes, definitely. We're seeing that there is an increased amount of injuries that are coming out on board, and we have some relationships now with hospitals like the Royal Talbot, where there is certainly an increase in injuries.
And is an increase in also the need for services like yours, particularly with the new National Disability Insurance Scheme? Are you seeing that there's a lot more people trying to get access to a lot more, let's say, tender care, respite and the like?
Absolutely. There's only going to be an increase in the number of clients that are going to be trying to access funding. So at the moment there's access for funding for people over the age of 18. There's when the NDIS is rolled out, people in adolescent age will also have access to funding, and we're only going to see an increase in the number of clients coming on board, and that in itself is going to have implications on the amount of staffing that's required, and the number of people available to provide the care.
Don, Glen was saying that Carechoice is a provider for TAC. So what services do TAC provide clients in terms of what do they offer?
The funding.
Yeah.
Well, look, they're funding attendant care, disability care. The range it depends on the person, but you can get community access. You can go to things such as mobility services, or which are provided by Carechoice as well. So the list can be somewhat, I wouldn't say endless, but there is a big list. But also the most important nuance is that you're not just dealing with trauma people. You're also dealing with people who are suffering from MS, autism, I'm looking at the list, cerebral palsy, so they're not necessarily trauma-induced. No. So the range is, I say, the criteria is there a criteria, or is it just if you need access or if you need some services, we'll provide it?
No, there absolutely isn't a criteria whether you're funded by the government or it's privately funded. People may require 2 hours of community access or personal care to 90 hours, 120 hours, which may be funded, and various types of services.
And in terms of funding, so you've broached obviously getting funding from the government. Is that the main source of funding for the Carechoice organisation?
Yes, there's various funding available to people, so through DHS funding, NDIS, slow to recover, the funding is quite numerous.
So Glen, in terms of your services and how you provide them, the support, you're available, or your service is available 24 hours a day. There's no time limit.
No, absolutely not. We're a 24/7 operation. Our clients need us could be at any time of the day. So we're there 24/7, and they have access directly into our coordination team to provide services.
And the most important thing is the service that you provide to them is at their home.
Absolutely, yeah. It is at their home. It's in-home support. And there's also support out in the community, and that's one of the main agendas, I guess, in terms of the government is to provide that community support and give access to people to live a fulfilling life.
I'm interested in, on that point, your methodology when it comes to aged care services. It seems like Carechoice want to assist the elderly to be at home but be comfortable. And look, I do like the idea of that, because we see a lot about, we hear a lot about aged care homes and the level of service that can be provided. There's a breadth of, I have to say, exposure in that regard. And I like the concept of that. Is that something that you guys are focusing on?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a trend to move into in-home support because of the standards of care that are provided. People have far more control over the services and their care provision. So we're finding that we're getting a lot of interest over our care provision in home for aged care.
So Glenn, how does someone contact Carechoice?
Very simple. Just call us on our 1300 number, or go to our website, carechoice.net.au.
Thanks, Glenn, for coming here tonight to explain what Carechoice is about. Viewers, after the break, we're going to speak to Suzie, Newall, who's a client service manager at Carechoice. So stay tuned and keep watching. Welcome back, viewers. Now we have with us Suzie Newall, who is a client services manager from Carechoice. Welcome, Suzie.
Thank you.
Now, Suzie, tell us a bit about your role and what you do at Carechoice.
Right, so I take care of all the intake at Carechoice. So what happens is people will perhaps call up the agency or online, they may inquire, and then from there I take those inquiries. So contact the clients and ascertain their needs and work out the course of action from there. So that phone call may become touching base about the primary diagnosis, the special arrangements that may be required in relation to care, and trying to organise an appointment to go out, touch base and see them in their own home and get to know a little bit more about the clients.
Well, that type of role obviously needed some sort of training and expertise. So what type of training have you had to cater, for those calls? Because there'd be a range of different...
Yeah, absolutely. Every day's very different. So that's the beauty of it. So I've been with the company for about 3.5 years now. So I actually started as a coordinator and I actually managed all the programs. And then now I've gone into more of the intake and client services side. So I've spent a few years rostering and working with the clients and that side of things, and learned a lot about the company and the different services we provide. And then from there I was able to work out the questions and answer most of them, I hope so.
And Suzie, can you explain what type, we sort of touched on it with Glenn, but what type of services does Carechoice provide?
Right, we provide an array of services, so all across attendant care. Now this may be very low care support, such as respite, supervision, all the way to complex care. Now this is a mixture of personal care, perhaps someone needs assistance showering in the morning, toileting, transferring to bed if they're in a wheelchair. It may be some light domestic duties as well in the home if they're unable to complete those themselves, and even quite complex as well if they need assistance with peg feeding, which is where you're fed through a tube in your stomach, and different complex needs from there.
So your role is to sort of work at the needs and put the appropriate people in place.
Absolutely. So we understand at Carechoice that every individual is very unique. So we need to work with them and achieve their individual goals. So that's my role, is to really go out and see the clients and work out exactly what they need and what's their goal to work towards.
What type of numbers are you getting inquiries a day, like the amount of calls you receive?
Oh yeah, there are multiple every single day. Yeah. Now this is people phoning up, perhaps they've heard about Carechoice, they've heard from a friend, they've seen our website, and also online as well. Often people Google, care in Melbourne, so we will come up then, and then they can inquire online. I will contact the client, and then we can touch base. So there'd be definitely multiple every day.
And when do you recommend people should contact Carechoice? I mean, people who are admitted into hospital should be contacted after the discharge, or should it start straight away?
Look, as soon as possible. It's really great because we can get things started very quickly, and we're used to that as well. But the more time, the better, because the other thing is we do have a pool of about 600 support workers on our books at the moment. However, we do have a full-time recruitment team. So that means if we don't have the the support workers on our books currently, we can actually recruit. So that may take some time as well. So the sooner you contact us, the better.
What's the screening process if someone calls up and says, look, I'm struggling to eat and I've got how do you screen whether whether sort of care is provided or you just sort of take everybody? Is there a...
Yeah, we do try to take everybody and try and work out their needs. So I think a big thing does come down to funding, and that's a big one, to try and work out if someone has funding. A lot of people would like support, but at the end of the day, it's hard to get that funding from different organisations, whether it be Department of Human Services or TAC or a variety of other not-for-profit organisations. So we don't actually have the funding to provide. We can't allocate. Yeah. So that's probably the biggest decider. However, we can always work out, providing care.
But you do private funding though?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Is that covered under private health?
No, it's not, unfortunately, no.
And Suzie, one thing that I think is not utilised enough, and I'll seek your view about this, but respite care. So you have people who are looking after, say, parents looking after a child with disabilities. How important is respite?
It's imperative to ensure perhaps it's parents, they haven't been out. I've met some clients who haven't been out as a couple for years since the child was born. And so what we really want to do is get that quality of life for the client, but also their primary caregivers. So we like to go out there and provide that support. It might just be 2 hours once a week, but that's 2 hours of respite, so they can get back into sanity for them, so they can get back to things they enjoy, whether it be a date night or it might be going out to watch a movie. So things like that, which is really important for individuals.
Isn't cool for anything.
Yeah.
That's right. And also the other things that you provide is mobility support. So people who are significantly disabled, what does that entail with helping people access community from your end?
Yes, I guess that depends on the level. So people who are in wheelchairs, sometimes they also can stand transfer so that they can actually help themselves to go into bed. They might need some assistance. Sometimes they might need the use of a hoist as well. So depending on their level of mobility, we can then tailor the program. So sometimes you might be able to go out in the community, you might be able to fold the wheelchair up, put it in the back seat, if someone's able to then go in the front seat and sit there. However, sometimes if people are restricted and aren't able to move without the use of a hoist, they'll need to get a larger taxi, and they can still go out in the community as long as there's an adequate vehicle.
And I understand it's a 24/7, 365 days a year company, but how quick are you to attend to someone? If someone calls and said, this is a matter of urgency, how quick can you get someone down?
Yeah, I go out straight away. So, yeah, absolutely. So we respond to things as soon as possible. We absolutely do. I do this every single day. So touch base with people. They'll call up, they desperately need support starting tomorrow. I will jump in the car and go out and see them straight away, work out all their needs, and from there get the program hopefully up and running the next day. However, sometimes there are complications, and depending on the exact client needs.
Do you ever need to bring sort of doctors with you to assess certain things? Is that part of the process?
Yeah, not necessarily, no, because if people are coming to us, they've actually got often a therapist, and they've got allied health teams have done a lot of that. So we're providing the attendant care.
Yep, okay.
And Suzie, we spoke to Glen about this, but it's at the comfort of their own home, and that's quite important with getting these people back to some sort of access to community. So tell us a bit about that. What's your aim? All treatment that can possibly be done at home, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the last thing people want to do is stay in hospitals and rehab facilities. So we like to get them home if possible, as long as that's okay with their therapist and their team advising them. But we like to be in the comfort of their own home as well. So to make sure we can provide that support. It's really important for people. They generally respond better to that care and work really well working towards their goals when they are in that comfort of their own home.
So viewers, if you need any assistance, senior care, disability care, attendant care, call Glen or call Suzie, who can help you at Carechoice, and the details are up there with their phone number and also their website. Nuns, any final words?
Oh look, it's a great Carechoice obviously is doing a lot for a range of disabilities and aged care. And I think it's a great concept, and continue with the great work. It's fantastic.
Suzie, thanks for coming along.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Nuns, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, viewers.
Viewers, thank you for watching. Now, always stay tuned. Watching previous episodes, go to our website, go to our social media. We'll see you next week again. And as Tony Carbone would always say, stay safe.